Hey there again, it's Micah. If you're having trouble playing your guitar, a lot of times it could also be a little bit of your guitarist's fault, especially when you're a beginner, when you're just starting out. A lot of times we have a cheap guitar. We start out with a cheap guitar. I started out with a $100 guitar, and I know a lot of people do this, a little hand-me-down or something like that. Those early cheap guitars are not really the best thing to start out on. Now, not saying you shouldn't do that because, like I said, I did it. Everybody does. A lot of my students do it, and I don't blame you. When you're just getting started, you're wanting to go the cheap route. So this video is about helping those of you out there, if your guitar is hard to play, if you got a cheap guitar and maybe it's not set up well, what you need to do to make it play a little bit easier for you. Now, I thought about making this video because I actually need to adjust. I need to work on my guitar a little bit because recently I sent my guitar off, got it worked on. It came back. I didn't like the way it was, so I worked on it a little bit. I kind of actually messed it up a little bit worse. So anyway, I got it to where it was playing. It sounded good, but it's still kind of hard to play, and I'm going to show you why. And this is how you're going to check your guitar to see if you're having the same problem that I'm having. So what's going on is the strings are kind of far away from the fretboard, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so as you can see, here we are, we're looking at my guitar, and you can see, look at the distance that the string is from the fretboard. And what that does is it makes it, the further those strings are away, you've got to push that much further to get it down to the fret, which makes it hard to do, okay? So what we're trying to do, what we want to do is, as you can see how far they're being pushed up right here, all that distance, that makes it harder to play. So what we need to do is get those strings to sit closer, naturally closer to the strings, okay? Now, idea here, and I got a mess down here, but if you look down your guitar neck, now you can see the silver line of frets and you can see the string. Alright, if we look down our fretboard, you can kind of see, and you can see how the strings end up coming further away. And now when you look straight down the wood part where your frets are, you can actually, it's a little blurry right there, but you can actually see a bit of a curve. But the curve is basically the neck of the guitar right here is actually kind of curving this way a little bit, which is okay. Typically we want a little bit of a curve like that, okay? But also more straight. Now, if we if we kind of bend it back this other way, okay, to where instead of going this way, it's now going this way, what you're going to have is a bunch of buzzes on your string, because when you press down on a fret, it's going to be rattling on a fret further up, okay? So that's what's going to make things hard. So we don't want that. Okay, so what I'm about to show you is what you want to do. And then I'm also going to show you how you can actually over adjust it. If you have a really cheap guitar and it's really bad out of shape, and you don't feel like messing with the bridge saddle down here, which we're also going to talk about that. But what you can do is really over adjust it to make it work okay for you and make it easier to play, but technically it's not really the right way of doing it. However, if you've got a $100 guitar, it's a whole lot better than going and spending $100 to get that $100 guitar set up. Okay, now if you've got a $500 guitar or something like that, or maybe even like $300 or $400, and you want to say, let's go ahead and get it set up, then you might do it. But this way you can do it yourself, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. It'll be something you can do yourself. So anyway, first off, what we need to do is adjust the neck. And to adjust the neck, most of our guitars come with either an Allen wrench of some size, okay, whatever size it might be, or in my case, mine has this is also an Allen wrench, but it's kind of long. It's a tool, so it works for my guitar. In most acoustic guitars, your adjustment's going to be inside of here, okay. So as you can look, inside. You see this hole right in here. And that's where my adjustment is going to take place. So if you look at your guitar and see, you're probably going to see either a hole or you're going to see like a little you're going to see a little Allen wrench screw in there. Okay, now the other thing, now some guitars, like especially like electric guitars or something like that, they may have an adjustment. They may not have an adjustment down here, but a lot of them will have an adjustment down here at the end of the neck. So in this case, which I'm not going to do this guitar right now because it's already done, but I would need to take these two screws out, and then my Allen wrench screw would be in there. And what that is, we have this screw. The screw that's in there is actually a truss rod. It goes all the way down through the neck of the guitar. What it does is actually, as we tighten it, it pulls the neck back, or as we loosen it, it allows the strings, the tension of your strings, to pull the neck forward. This way, so as you tighten it, you're pulling the neck back against the strings, or if you loosen it, you're allowing the strings to pull the neck further forward like that. Okay, so you're either, as you loosen it, the neck's going to come this way, or as you tighten it, it's going to pull back that way. Okay, now what we want to do is, if the action is real high, we want to pull the neck back. Okay, we want to pull that neck back so that those strings will sit closer to the fretboard. Now, oftentimes what we can do is, if you can look here, this is my bridge saddle right here, this plastic piece right here. What you can do without messing with this, okay, and again, I don't recommend necessarily doing it like this. If you spent some money on your guitar, I would recommend you actually go ahead and get this done as well, and maybe even pay for a setup. But again, we're talking about a cheapo guitar, and what we can do is we can adjust the neck so we can tighten it up so that this neck will pull back this way, okay? And what will happen is you can see the strings getting a little bit closer as I pull back. Now what you'll end up seeing is, a lot of times when you look down your guitar neck, you'll be able to see a bow going backwards. It'll actually be over adjusted. It means you've actually done it too far. It's not really the right way of doing it. So the frets way up here on the neck are going to be further, and then your neck's going to be bent back, but up in here it's going to be closer. So you're going to have a funky little bow. And what that's going to do is basically it's going to make this half of your guitar play better, this half of your guitar play worse. Now, that's not good for a good guitar, and that's not good for a good guitar player. But when you're first starting out and you're just needing your guitar to work a little better for you, we can pull it back a little bit. Get this area, because this is really the area that you're doing pretty much all, if not, or most, if not all of your guitar playing up in here. And so we'll get this area better so you can play like that. Again, just to clarify, this is not technically correct, but you can do that. So this is how we're going to do it. First thing we do is we want to see how far we need to go. If we see a lot of a big bow this way of our guitar neck, we know that we're going to need to pull it back a lot till it's almost flat or flat. Okay, and depending on how high this bridge saddle is how far we can go back for that if we wanted to do that over adjustment. Okay, now if you do this and then you start playing on it and you're getting buzzy and stuff like that, then you've definitely adjusted it too far, and what you're going to need to do is loosen it back up so that the strings can pull the neck back forward again. Okay, and again, just go a little bit at a time, but remember, you're not going to like totally screw anything up. Okay, it's going to be okay. Just do what you want to do is tighten it like 2/4 of a round, like so. You're going to stick the Allen wrench in there, tighten it as far as it'll go, pull it out, and stick it back in there again, tighten it again. Okay, so you're only going to get one small turn each time you put the Allen wrench in there. First off, though, we're going to loosen up the strings. Okay. Okay, so loosen the strings up so they're nice and loose, and we can get our Allen wrench in that hole. So remember, I have this tool here, but a lot of you guys are gonna just have a regular Allen wrench to do that. So I get the tool in there, and I put it in, and I gotta shimmy it around, and then I turn it downward like that, and that's going to tighten the neck, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it 2 good turns, okay? Now, depending on how much of a bow you saw when you looked at your guitar, how much of a bow you saw that way, you might need more. You might need to do more. I didn't have much of a bow in mine. Mine was pretty straight. In fact, I might not even need to do this at all, but I'm going to do it anyway just so you can see. What I'm going to probably need to end up doing is shaving this down, but I'm just showing you this part so that you can do this, because this is the first thing you want to do is adjust the neck, because it's the easiest thing to do, okay? And just think, when we're looking at the screw, you go to the right, that's tighter, to the left is looser. Okay, so I just took it, 2 or 3 turns. I'm going to pull this out, and then I'm going to just tighten everything back up. Okay, so now, I've tightened it up, and I'm looking at it, and that looks a little bit better. So it's a little bit straighter, okay? Now, if you look here, it's still not really as close as I want it to be, so I'm going to do some more adjustment. However, like I said, if yours is like that and you do it, you could tighten it some more so that that neck will, and what will end up happening is right up in here, it'll actually bend further, and you'll see a bow right up in here. And that's not a great thing for a guitar, but at the same time, if it's a cheap guitar, I just say whatever and just do it, because it's going to make it easier to play, and it's not like you're going to really do that much to it anyways. So I think if it makes it easier to play, then do it and forget about whether it's technically correct or not. So that is for the neck adjustment. Remember, loosen the strings, give it a few turns to the right, it's going to pull that neck back. The more turns you do, the more it's going to pull it back, the closer those strings are going to get to your frets, okay? And just last time, the over adjustment, you can go further, even though your neck will be bent backwards, as long as it's not buzzing on the frets and it makes it easier to play, I think that's a good thing. So you can do that. Now in the next video, I'm going to show you about if you don't want to do the over adjustment and you maybe want to try to shave down the bridge saddle. We're going to talk about that in the next video. And once again, my name is Mike Lipsmeyer, and I will see you soon in another video.